Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience.
This episode has been sponsored by the customer engagement platform SAP Ecommerce that have been helping their clients be customer obsessed for years. Recent research from Forrester has found that customer-obsessed marketers are more than twice as likely to collect or transform real-time data for use in marketing programs and almost twice as likely to use all the data available to them in making customer decisions. At SAP Ecommerce, they help to empower the marketer's path towards greater omni-channel engagement, whether that's pioneering advancements in personalization or growing loyalty to extend a customer's lifespan with a brand by engaging anywhere and personalizing everywhere. Visit emarsis.com to find out more.
Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen Robinson, and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest, Anthony Butler, who is the founder of the digital marketing agency Can Do Ideas and the author of Primal Storytelling, Marketing for Humans, a highly regarded expert in brand storytelling and digital marketing. Anthony graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point and the U.S. Army Ranger School. He's a combat veteran and commanded an infantry company in Iraq during the invasion of Baghdad. He's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blackbelt and currently resides in Montana with his wife and 2 sons. Welcome to the podcast, Anthony.
Oh, thanks, Arlen. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. And that's a pretty impressive background that you have there, as far as, your military service. And first off, thank you for your service, our U.S. military. We appreciate that and everything that you've done. Not a lot of people know, but you kind of came from 2 elite areas. West Point is an elite military academy, of course, here in the U.S. and the U.S. Army Ranger. I mean, those are really that's the real deal. If you get through that, then I'd be scared to to pick a fight with you. Put it that way. Let's leave it at that. So definitely impressive background, and today, of course. I'm sure a lot of what you've done in the past has probably led you to, where you are today. But of course, today we're going to be talking about the concept and the topic of using primal storytelling to grow an e-commerce business. And so you're going to be enlightening us a little bit about what that is. But before we do get into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and specifically how you got into what you're doing today?
Yeah, sure. So, I had a typical military career where, you serve in your country, you're doing the things that you have to do. I served an enormous amount of time in combat zones and danger areas around the world. And one of the things that happens during that kind of an experience is that you experience the extremes of emotion, extreme highs, extreme lows, maybe some anger, some fear, all those things. And later on, when I transitioned out and I got into, one job led to another, I ended up at a startup in New York City that I was an early employee, and the company blew up over a few years. And when I left, it sold for hundreds of millions of dollars and, had hundreds of employees. Yeah. From there, when I was there, I started to dabble in marketing and learn about, hey, I'm on the sales team. I want to get leads. I want to grow my business. And that led me into eventually starting my own marketing company as Can Do Ideas, the one I've been running for the last 9 years.
Yes.
And one of the things that happened was a couple of years in, I was working with this big SaaS company and we were creating content for them, so blogs and email marketing and doing some social media stuff. And, about 6-9 months into the engagement, I get a call from their CEO and he's like, "Hey, Tony, we love you guys. The work is great. You're professional, but we're going to let you go." I'm like, "What? What's happening?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, the work is just not moving the needle. We're not getting enough leads from the spend." And that was just this big wake up call for me. And I was really nervous because if you're an agency and you can't deliver results, like you're getting fired, like you're going out of business, right?
Right.
And so I'm searching, and I'm trying to figure out like what was different with this client versus all the rest of them. Because some clients were gangbusters, like delivering results and like people are happy.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to this conference down in San Diego, and there's a guest speaker and he's talking and he's like, people buy emotionally and then they rationalize their decision with logic. Ding. It was like this epiphany. It's something I'd heard before, but I didn't really deeply like analyze it and think about it. And I started thinking about like my military experiences, like when you had these highs of emotion and these lows, and like you have this gradient of how you feel about something. Like you're really happy something happened, but you're also sad. And, it's this weird thing.
Yeah.
And that led me to a discovery of a whole body of work around evolutionary psychology and how evolutionary psychology and what makes us who we are is related to emotions, which led me to another discovery, which was emotional stories. They ring with people. Like you have little kids. I don't know if you have any children.
No, I don't.
My boys, when they were really young, they wanted to watch Shrek. We watched Shrek 16,000 times.
Right.
Why is that? It's because we primarily communicate with others through stories. The next time you go to a story, you just sit in the back and just kind of listen. What next time you go to a party, like listen to what people are saying. Yeah. They're telling stories of like, "Hey, I got this bad boss at work and he's crazy and he's doing this and that." Or I was at the store and I saw this guy robbing the place. It's just all these stories. When you can bring storytelling into your business, into your social media, into your blogs, into everything that you're doing to generate leads, and then map the marketing stories to your sales process, that's when everything will change. So if you've got an e-commerce product, you want to look for like, what are the stories that you can tell that will connect with your audience?
Yeah.
And so in the book, I outline a 3-part process to create a content marketing system for a business. So every business is a little bit different. You want to customize that system for you. And what I did is I broke it down into 3 parts. So tribe, primal story, primal urges, and primal emotions, plus stories. And that's the primal story.
Okay.
And what that does is it gives you a framework to build your content marketing around, and it can get you more leads and generate more audience followers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely does. And yeah, thank you for explaining that concept. And you're totally right. You don't really realize it, but that storytelling you're right. It's the primary way we communicate. If you're ever somewhere, somebody's telling you something that happened, their experience, maybe they're telling you the story of, or they're telling another story. Maybe they watched a show, they're telling you that story, or they're saying, like you said, "Oh, I had a bad experience at work." It's something. It's these exchange of stories, and I think it's just kind of in our core of how we are akin to communicate with each other. And I guess what you're saying is, translating that into communicating your story to your end customer or prospective customer, because it's a similar form of communication right there.
That's exactly it. And, every business is faced with a dilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 1.5 billion websites in the world.
Wow.
Every minute, if you spent the next 50 years just watching YouTube, you wouldn't even finish a single hour of content was uploaded on YouTube. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So how do you differentiate your brand from everyone else?
Mhm.
And I can tell you, in the next couple of years, the brands that tell the best stories, those are the brands that are going to win.
Yeah.
The brands that are able to connect with their audience in an authentic way,
Okay.
using storytelling structures, those are the ones that are really going to generate enough leads that they can outperform competition.
Okay.
You know, in as an example, in the e-commerce space, there's a lot of brands that are selling similar products, or maybe there's some slight differentiation, but there's not like a really large difference. And when you want to get outside of price, what you're really left with is the stories that you tell and how you tell them and how you connect with an audience.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you were thinking about story and you're communicating your brand story, I think because we always hear it. I think amongst the marketing circles and the digital marketing world, where whether it's podcasts or training seminars, brands are always hearing this. They're hearing the fact that it's stories that sell. It's not facts and figures and stats about your product. It's the stories that are telling. And so it makes sense. But I think what a lot of brands may struggle with is really, they know this, but then how do they identify, what are the core elements of their own brand story that's then going to resonate with, the primal instincts of their target audience? How do they pull out, as I'm sure as a business, there's a whole story behind the creation of the products and the services and who they're trying to reach. But, how do you pull out the right elements of that?
Yeah. So the first step is you're going to look at your audience, start with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at, okay, what are the demographics? What are the psychographics of the audience that's most likely to buy from us and that we love working with? And once you understand who they are as people, that opens up a lot of understanding. Then you can start looking at, okay, why might they be afraid to buy from us? What drives them? What are their hopes and fears and dreams? Like, how can we help them help themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Because once we understand their motivations, then we can start to look at, and I outline a number of different story structures in the book, is that then we can identify what stories do we want to tell? What stories will connect with them once we know who they are as people?
Yeah.
The other thing that I do in the book is I outline 4 primary stories that every business can tell. So the first one is the origin story.
Mm-hmm.
So you start with, hey, where do we come from? Why are we in business? Like, what's that? How do we start? Because here's the thing. Everyone asks you, hey, just you and I, when we were first getting on the podcast, you're like, hey, where are you located? Where are you from? How'd you get started?
Yeah.
Like, those are questions we always ask because that's part of what makes us human. Those are the stories we really care about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the second story you're going to focus on is the vision. What is it we're trying to do? How are we trying to change the world? Okay. If you listen to Elon Musk and how he started up with, hey, I'm going to start a rocket company. Okay. I'm going to start an electric car company. Well, he's got these big vision stories. We're going to put another a base on Mars. We're going to start, be an interplanetary species. Well, those are giant stories. Not all of us are trying to get to Mars, but there's something about your business that you're trying to do that is related to helping people, to helping the world. Because what do entrepreneurs do? We solve problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the second story. The third story is transformation story. How did we help someone before they saw us? What was the problems they were having? What were the fears they had? What was it like when they worked with us or they bought a product from us? And then what was that transformation? Like, was it afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're just selling something that's a commodity, it's still there to help and solve someone's problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the fourth category of stories, and this is the one that I think most businesses get wrong. Like if you go and look at a cross section of really large corporate blogs, they're all written for search engines. Like, no one wants to read that. You open up the blog and you're reading like, who would read this? Like,
right.
This is the cure for insomnia. Like,
right.
And my best advice, and this is why the book has the subtitle, it's marketing for humans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I actually think that ChatGPT and some of the AI out there is going to hurt some businesses because everyone's rushing on this train. And I don't know if you know this, but when you look at a subject and you try to use AI to create a blog,
Yeah.
they're all the same structure.
Yeah.
That's how the colleges are fighting back against students writing essays using ChatGPT, because it's all the same. So if we all type in, "Hey, summarize Romeo and Juliet for me," it's going to pop out 50 summaries that are all the same. Guess what?
Same
They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
What it doesn't do is it doesn't provide insight.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't provide an authentic connection to what makes us human.
Right.
Okay. When you bring that into a blog, you bring some heart, you bring some soul, you bring a little bit of art mixed with some science.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the future, Google is going to continue to really reward those blogs and those websites that have unique content that people love, that was written for people and not for the search engine. Okay. Because here's what we know about marketers. Marketers ruin everything, right? Every time, like, all the marketers rush in, oh, we got to get backlinks. And so you got people going to third world countries and, getting 5,000 backlinks to all these fake websites. And then Google figures it out and they smack down. That's what happened back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Or keyword density. That's how you get all the traffic.
Mm-hmm.
In modern times, when Google is one of the smartest, most sophisticated companies in the world, like, it's not just one thing that they reward with domain authority. It's, hey, how do people love our content? How many people are backlinking to this content? You come to our website, how long do you stay? How many pages do you read? You can only do that if you're marketing for humans and you're writing in a way that people want to hear. You have to write for your audience.
Yeah.
And my one piece of advice for everyone who's listening to this is stop thinking about yourselves and think deeper about your clients. Think how you can help them. If you want to use content marketing to promote a brand by delivering value for your audience way before they buy anything from you. Mm-hmm. Just be kind. Go the extra mile. Like, what can you do that would be helpful? Mm-hmm. And I like to use this podcast as an example. Like, you, Arlen Robinson, you have a brand. You have things that you sell as a business, right?
Right. This
podcast is a gift to the world that you do. Like, anybody paying you to do this? No, you're not getting paid for this. Like, this is for free. Like, this is it's a passion project that you do for your clients because you're trying to give them something. And you know what? The karma of the business world is you give enough and eventually people come back and they find you and they come back and they buy from you and they're like, man, that guy is really interesting. I've been listening to this podcast. What is it he does? Oh, and you look it up and wait, affiliate software. You know what? I should check that out. And then they buy. Yeah. And maybe they're a client and this is just one more ad. It's like, gosh, these guys are so good. And that podcast is so good. It buys karma from them. It gives you goodwill.
Right.
Okay. It helps build trust before there's ever a sale.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what content does.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as far as taking these primal story elements, and it makes sense how you can connect. How do you translate that, or is there a specific strategy or is it just, being authentic across all of these platforms, these channels, your content marketing, your website, social media, email marketing? Do you just need to employ that same tactic? Is there anything special that you need to do when you are, I guess you could say, translating these stories across those mediums?
So it's a great question. So think of it like your favorite Netflix special. So think of Game of Thrones. Okay. Yeah. You got season after season. Each season has an overall theme, and then each episode has the adventures. Okay. Mm-hmm. In a business, think of you're gonna publish a year's worth of content. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay out an entire calendar, and we're gonna think of those themes that we're gonna deliver on a quarterly basis. And we're gonna think, okay, each quarter, what's the main theme? So think of that as the season, and then you're gonna break down the episodes within the season. And I'm not talking about fiction. That's not what we're doing. Is okay. For the first quarter, maybe, so for my own business, maybe I'm focused on, all right, I'm going to show case studies where Primal Storytelling helped grow the organic traffic of a website. And then second quarter, I'm going to focus on, okay, how do we use Primal Storytelling in email marketing? How do we use Primal Storytelling on our social media?
Yeah.
And I think people are shocked when they start to look, is like there is a science side of marketing and storytelling, and there's also the art side. And it's not just one, it's both.
Mhm.
And then the on the science side, we need to know and we need to be able to collect data. Like data matters. Like you need to understand what it is. And so I have some tools that I recommend in the book. I'm a HubSpot Gold partner.
Sure.
And, on the back end, we're collecting data in a CRM. We're mapping that to sales teams and what sales teams are doing so that the leadership team can understand what stories are working, what themes are working, what kinds of blogs are working, not just with our social media, but with our organic traffic, our pages. Like what blogs are working? What do our clients really need to hear from us?
Yeah, for sure. And it's really all about just that, analyzing that data once you
Exactly.
got it from your customers or your prospects. Yeah, it all makes sense. What I want to see though is, do you see any potential, or what are the potential challenges that a business is going to face, or they might face while they're, implementing primal storytelling, and if so, how would they overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge is they think too narrowly about the kinds of content that they can produce.
Okay.
So if you look on Twitter, you look on Instagram, and let's say we look at an industry, everyone's producing the exact same stuff.
Yeah,
they're all sharing industry news. They all have some pithy quote that they're trying to share. It's like whatever theme is on the calendar. It's National Women's Day. And so everyone's got the exact same post about National Women's Day. Okay.
Sure.
Well, Me Too content doesn't really move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we're looking for is content that is insightful. And one of the things in the book that you'll see is I break out different story structures that they can use, and then start to think, okay, how could I apply this story structure in a way that may or may not have direct relationship to my business? Okay, now what does that mean? So I'll give you an example. I was working with this large manufacturing company out in Long Island, New York, one of the biggest manufacturers in the whole country. And they make all kinds of whiz bang stuff, stuff on the space shuttle. They got stuff on the Mars rover and, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, their target market are these giant aerospace companies and airplane companies and, scientific robotic companies. But then when we started to dig into their data, we realized that the people who were referring their products into the end product were all engineers, older engineers, like 60 to 70 years old. And they were like, you know what? We really would love to have a program for young engineers to kind of learn who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started thinking about it. We start brainstorming, and they decided to create a leadership development program for engineers in their first 5 years out of college.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when you graduate college from an engineering school, you're not a professional engineer. You got to go through this kind of apprenticeship thing, and you got to learn to be a professional engineer, and then you got to take a test at the end. Right.
Right.
And they're like, well, hey, so we produce content for these young engineers, like, hey, how to run a meeting, how to be a better leader, how to be a good team member as part of a big project, soft skill kind of thing that would be helpful to them. Has nothing to do with a manufacturing business. It was helpful to their target market. Okay. And so once you start to think of the kinds of relevancy of the content, have you ever heard of a company called USAA?
Yes, they are an insurance company.
Insurance company, yep.
Yeah.
And they focus on military members. I've been a member of USAA for 30 years. I like to use them as an example. Okay. They produce all kinds of content for their target market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And their target market are military members and their families, right?
Right.
They're producing blogs that are, hey, if you ever thought about joining the military, they've got all this content on, hey, if you want to join, this is a way you could pass your physical fitness test. Here's how to study for the exams to get into the military and get a good job. Like, it's kind of interesting. So they're marketing to people who could someday become a client of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very clever. And then the amount of content they produce for them that's so well done and professionally done. They'll go out and they're hiring personal trainers to help you get fit before you go in the military, to work on your mental toughness before you go in. It's really clever and smart. Very well done.
Yeah.
You know, they have an A+ in the Primal Storytelling from me.
Okay. Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah. That's a great example. Appreciate that. As we get ready to wrap things up, I wanted to see, could you share any examples of any other brands or in the e-commerce space that have successfully implemented primal storytelling, tactics of primal storytelling in their marketing efforts, and what kind of impact did that have on their growth from what you know?
Yeah. So, just a few during the pandemic, I worked with an e-commerce brand in Montana that they were organic food brand
Mm-hmm.
that had put a food coalition together. And what we started to do was tell the story of where the food came from. How was it produced? Like, what does organic actually mean? Like what
Mm-hmm.
do those farmers go through? And then what we did was we would highlight farmers that were producing the actual product for the brand. And we put that on social media and we told their stories, and that increased sales like right in the middle of the pandemic when no one was buying anything.
Okay. Wow.
And in the first month we rolled out their program, they did an extra $30,000 in a
Wow.
single month
Okay.
in brand new sales in markets they had never entered before.
Yeah.
And we started linking their ads to their primal storytelling content,
Mm-hmm.
and the ads started to produce more than they ever had before. So
Okay.
just one small example.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, what it also seems like you telling that story is, as a brand, you don't have to think too hard about it to really pull out these stories, because it's what you talked about there with that particular organic foods brand. Just something as simple as what is organic foods. How did we come up with this particular product line? What are the elements and ingredients in the food? All of
Exactly.
those things are things that are going to be relevant and important to that end customer, because that's their differentiating factor in the food space is the organic nature of it. So obviously people that are buying their items are very conscious about organic foods and the differences between organic food and non-organic food. And so, to clarify that, to spell that out, I can see how that, will go a long way with them connecting to to the right end stories. So, makes a lot of sense. And then secondly, I mean, it can kind of work twofold, when a brand shares their story and informs their audience, especially in this world of all of this information. A lot of people have probably had misconceptions about a particular subject. Let's say organic foods in it, for instance. Some people may have a total misunderstanding of what it is, what certified organic means, and that whole process. And then to be able
Absolutely.
to clarify that, you're coming off as as an authority on it, and you can definitely gain your customers' loyalty there, and their trust there. And then that's when if they trust you, you have them a loyal customer, potential customer, then they're going to be comfortable purchasing from you. So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
I
great.
mean, all purchases start with trust.
Yeah, yeah,
They start with trust. They
yeah.
just do.
That's the bottom line. Yeah. So Anthony, it's been awesome talking to you. I think this whole primal storytelling concept, it makes total sense. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check out your book for sure. Like I said, it's something that you hear, but storytelling and how a brand needs to incorporate that into everything they do as far as, their content, social media. It makes a lot of sense. And then those testimonials, those case studies can definitely, definitely speak to that for sure. So, I definitely have learned a lot, and I know our listeners have as well. But yeah, I always like to close things out here with one kind of closing question, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think we'd be interested to know.
A fun fact about me.
Yes.
I love to do backcountry hiking.
Okay.
And during the summertime, I go backcountry where, the only contact you have with civilization is, satellite.
Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah, I've done a lot of backcountry hiking in some really rugged, beautiful areas in Montana. So that's why I live here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, that's when you, like you said, the only connection you have is via satellite. I guess if you have a satellite phone, of course, for emergency purposes only. that's your only link. Other than that, I would guess so. I would imagine you're totally off the grid.
You're off the grid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're living off the land or whatever supplies that you brought when you were, when you packed your bag. So yeah, sounds like some fun stuff. Yeah, that's something I would like to do at one point in my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Anthony, thanks for sharing that. Definitely appreciate that. And lastly, before we do let you go, if you don't mind sharing the best way for our listeners to contact you if they'd like to pick your brain any more about Primal Storytelling or anything under the.
Yeah, sure. You can find me at primalstorytelling.com, and we actually have a podcast offer for all your listeners. primalstorytelling.com/podcast.
Okay.
And you can get a digital copy of the book for free, 7 bonuses. And I promise I won't spam you with a bunch of upsells.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that offer. We really appreciate that. We'll definitely be sure to include that link in the show notes so people can download that free digital version of your book. I'm definitely going to check that out myself for sure and share that with others that I know. So really appreciate that. And Anthony, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We really appreciate you coming on to the E-Commerce Marketing Podcast.
Well, thanks, Arla. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-Commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level but are tired of wading through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.